Welcome back to Grade 8 History, Unit Number 1, Creating Canada, 1850 to 1890. This is Lesson Number 4, What Led to the Idea of Confederation. Before we begin today's lesson, let's consider the following. I'm going to backtrack to the title slide so that you can get a much closer look at the painting. And I want you to consider and then jot down your response to this question. What reasons do you think the politicians shown in the painting had for wanting to join the British North American colonies together? Okay, so here we are. This is a famous, iconic Canadian painting showing all of the men who collectively would come to be known as the Fathers of Confederation. These were the politicians who led the uniting of initially four British North American colonies into the Canadian Confederation. So what I want you to do is put the video on pause so that you can write down your thoughts as to why these politicians wanted to join the British North American colonies together. Please put the video on pause now. All right, and let's proceed. The colonies in British North America were expanding rapidly. However, British Columbia was separated from the other colonies by the vast Rupert's Land in Northwestern Territory, which was controlled by the British through the Hudson's Bay Company. By 1864, the HBC was looking to sell Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory due to a steep decline in the fur trade. And using this map as reference, just look at how far apart the colonies and territories are separated by Rupert's Land, especially the province of Canada and New Caledonia. I want you to put the video on pause so that you can write down your response to this question. How easy or hard do you think it would be to join the colonies together? Put the video on pause now, please. And let's continue. Although the colonies all belonged to Britain, they operated on their own. Each colony had its own government, and each government made decisions that reflected its colony's best interests. Each colony was also facing serious political, economic, and military issues. Leaders in some of the colonies began to consider whether Confederation, a joining of the colonies, might be the best way to solve these issues. This man on the left is Thomas D'Arcy McGee. He was an Irish immigrant to Canada West, and he was one of the first politicians to encourage uniting all of the colonies. One issue facing the colonies was the threat of an American invasion. Geographically, British North America was huge, but its defenses were very small. The colonies and territories were easy targets for the American military if the U.S. decided to expand northward. Already, many American settlers were beginning to claim lands south of the Great Lakes. Many American settlers and politicians believed in manifest destiny, the idea that Americans had the right and the duty to expand their country throughout all of North America. I'm just going to direct your attention to this painting on the left, and when I'm done talking, you'll put the video on pause so that you can not only take a closer look at this painting, but write down your response to this question. What symbols and artistic techniques does the artist use to show the Americans' belief in manifest destiny? Please put the video on pause now. And moving forward, from 1861 to 1865, the U.S. was engaged in a civil war. It was a war of secession, as a number of the southern states wanted to separate from the U.S. in order to keep slavery. The northern states had abolished slavery, but the southern states relied on slave labor to keep their economy running. Britain declared itself neutral, however, it condemned slavery while at the same time making sure that the South did not cut off its supply of cotton to British textile mills. The North eventually won the war, keeping the U.S. together and ending slavery. Over 600,000 Americans died during the fighting. America now resented Britain and British North America for dividing its support between both sides of the war. And images of fallen American soldiers left lying on the battlefield terrified people both in America and in British North America. After the war ended, the now large and well-trained American army had no battles to fight. People in the colonies feared that the American army would look for a new fight by invading British North America. Their fears were supported when, in 1866, the Massachusetts Congress introduced the United States Annexation Bill, which called for the colonies of British North America to be incorporated into the United States. And in this 1861 cartoon, Brother Jonathan is asking the American soldiers where they are running off to. The soldiers respond that they are going to take Canada. So what I want you to do, after I'm done talking, is put the video on pause so that you can write down your response to this question. How do you think this cartoon increased fears of an American invasion in British North America? Please put the video on pause now. And moving ahead. The annexation bill did not pass. However, in March of 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the U.S. Russia did not have enough money to continue to protect Alaska, and it was not interested in selling Alaska to its European rival, Britain. It looked like the U.S. was working to surround the colonies even further. Another threat to the colony's safety came in the form of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, also known as the Fenians. The Fenians were formed as a secret society in Ireland in 1858. Their mission was to end British rule over Ireland. After the American Civil War, a number of Irish Americans joined the Fenians in a plan to invade the British North American colonies and hold them hostage until Britain granted independence to Ireland. Although the Fenians' attempts to take over the colonies were a dismal failure, the people of British North America were still very scared that a future American invasion would succeed. The Fenians did manage to score their one and only victory at Ridgeway, Ontario, and it's depicted in this painting. The Fenians were able to defeat a unit of young and inexperienced Canadian troops, but eventually fled as more experienced British and Canadian reinforcements arrived. North America had been a source of riches for Britain for over 200 years. However, in order to keep control of the land and its natural resources, fish, fur, and lumber, the British had to fight many long and costly battles. In the 1860s, Britain was sending tens of thousands of soldiers to British North America to defend it from dangers posed by the American Civil War and the Fenians. Paying, equipping, and feeding soldiers cost Britain a great deal of money, and a growing number of British politicians wanted the colonies to pay for more or all of the costs of defense. When I'm finished talking, you're going to take a closer look at this painting on the left and write down your response to this question. Despite being treated so poorly by the British, who is shown with the soldiers on their mission? Please put the video on pause now. Okay guys, we're getting near the end. Let's continue. In previous lessons, we learned that the Americans canceled the Reciprocity Treaty in 1865, causing British North America to trade less with the U.S. This hurt the economies in all of the colonies. Leaders in the colonies, including George Brown, started to encourage Confederation as a way for the colonies to improve their economies by trading more with each other. And we will be talking a lot more about George Brown in future lessons. He was a major player in the events leading to Canada's Confederation. And yes, the college in Toronto is named after him. All right, So let's finish off today's video by considering the following. When I'm done talking and giving all of the instructions, you will put the video on pause so that you can write down your responses to these three questions. Number one, what were the main reasons for joining the British North American colonies together? Two, which reason do you think was the most important? And three, which reason do you think was the least important? If your memory is shaky or you don't feel confident in answering these questions, it means you need to go back, take the time and watch this video at least once more, and then when you're ready, put the video on pause. All right, and I look forward to a lively discussion around all of the questions contained within this video. But until we meet again, this concludes today's video.